Hello and welcome to Practical Knife Reviews. Today for you we've got another vintage knife, which I always love reviewing. Let me know in the comments if you like when we look at vintage knives, because I've got a bunch of them. This one is a vintage Camillus, made in New York, Scout knife. And I love this Scout knife. It's one of my favorites. So you can see over time the scales have shrunk. This is not sure when this one is from. I'd guess probably the 70s, but I'm not quite sure. In any case, you can tell it's getting up there in age, but everything works perfectly on it. The pull on this main blade is about 4.5 or so. It's a slightly light pull, but it's fine. It's got carbon steel blade. You can see it's been resharpened a lot of times, so there's almost no point on this spear point blade anymore. But I never really used the point for anything anyway. We've got a little can opener. This one, the pull is a little bit tougher on this one, maybe a 5, so not tough, but compared to the main blade. But a little can opener, hawkbill can opener, pretty sharp. We've got one of Camillus's long flathead screwdrivers and a bottle opener here. And we've got an awl. And I love this awl. I've used it quite a few times and it works great. Yeah, I really love the awl on this Scout knife. We've also got a bail, and you can see that it had quite a bit of rust on it, and I cleaned it up. I cleaned up all of the blades and everything, sanded off the rust, and then used a bit of case paste on them to clean them up a little bit. But I mean, that is a pretty knife, is it not, Ma?
It is.
Okay, so let's see how it works. Check the sharpness. It is sharp. Oops, that was me. I caught a fold. I sharpened this just after I cleaned it up, and I haven't used it since I cleaned it up. The blade, that is. I've used the awl. But you can see it is very, very sharp. Now, if this is in your pocket, and you've got a package coming in, you can see, very easy. I didn't go all the way through it on that slice, but not a whole lot of force. This slice is taking more force right here. I'm going through every layer of the cardboard here, though. We'll do one more. Yeah, a little bit more force on that cut, but not that bad. You certainly could get by. Next, we're going to look at apple. So if this is your knife in your pocket, and you're hungry and you want an apple, can you peel an apple with it? And the answer is a resounding yes. These vintage the vintage knife blades, I am super fond of, particularly on these old Scout knives. So if you compare a vintage knife to a modern knife, even a modern made traditional style knife, you'll notice a difference in the geometry of the blades pretty quickly. I can give you an example. Let me set this down. So you can see it peels the apple very, very well. Both because of how sharp it is and how thin it is. Set that down right there. Stay. Okay, where did I set down there it is. Recorded another video at the same time that either will be coming out right before or right after this on this Marbles work knife. And you can see the thickness of the blade is just about identical. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, but if you look at how thin they are behind the edge, this is very, very thin just behind the edge. Versus this, even after I reprofiled it slightly just because I had to sharpen out a little nick I put into the blade, you can see it doesn't thin out quite as quickly. I don't know if you can see that.
Not positive, but...
In any case, you'll just have to take my word for it if the video is not picking it up, but this is a much thinner blade overall in terms of how quickly it thins down compared to another traditional style but modern made knife. And you'll see that pretty commonly, is that the old vintage knives tend to have a much thinner profile behind the edge here. And of course, this one's been resharpened a bunch of times over the years, but nonetheless, that is what you will see. Okay, let us check how it'll work on wood. So if you're out camping with your Scout knife, take these off, put them right there. So this is pine, this is a softwood, and you can see we've got a thin blade with a super sharp edge. This piece is stabbing me in the finger, so I'm going to just move him out of the way. But you can see I'm putting almost no effort into this, like really almost none at all. Do I hear the mouse moving around over there?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought I heard something rustling around.
Might be in here somewhere.
Yeah, there's a mouse that lives in here, so once in a while you hear rustling around, and that would be him. Anyway,
Find the apple.
there's your feathers on the pine. Let's see how you can do on red oak, which is the hardest wood in our forest. So can you feather stick a hardwood with this vintage Camillus Scout knife? And the answer, and I know the answer because before I cleaned it up, I did this with it. But you can see a little bit more effort, which is just natural, going into a hard wood compared to the softwood that's pine. And the angle of the grain is actually working against me here. But you can see very little effort, decent curls. Let's try a different face. Just because with the angle of the grain being different, it oftentimes will cause the how the knife performs on that wood to perform differently. And you can see the angle of the grain here is different than on the previous face. So yeah, I can notice I'm not pushing as hard to get these feathers as on the previous face, but the quality is roughly similar. So can easily cut into both a hardwood and a softwood with this vintage Camillus Scout knife. Ma, what do you think about this before we take it in and do our measurements and whatnot?
I could see the practicality, like you said, with the apples and that, with the blade being so thin, it's really easy to peel and use for other things too.
Yeah, this is super thin. What do you think about how it looks and whatnot?
Oh, it's pretty, and it reminds me of the old Scout knives that my dad always carried.
Yeah, this is just like one that he had, but this is not one that he had because I'm always afraid of breaking the knives that Grandpa gave me. So a lot of times if I find one that I really like from him, I'll go out and periodically look to see if I can get a deal on a knife very similar or just like one that he gave so that I can use one without having the fear of breaking one that he gave me. A little bit neurotic perhaps, but that's me. Okay, any other thoughts before we go in, Ma?
No.
Okay, then we'll go in and we'll do some final measurements of the Camillus Vintage Scout Knife. Hello and welcome back to Practical Knife Reviews. We're going to continue our review of the vintage Camillus Scout Knife. Now, if you know when this knife was made or what the exact model number of this knife was, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But you can see here, let's see if we can get it into the camera so it'll focus for us. Camillus, New York. You can see there's quite a bit of pitting. This was pretty rusted before I cleaned it up. I soaked it in vinegar, scrubbed that off, sanded off the exterior, and then case pasted it, and we're still left with that pitting. So that just goes to show how rusty it was. Look at those back springs. But in any case, we've got a Spearmaster blade that has been sharpened a lot so that there's no real point on it anymore. We've got our can opener, which when we do a battle of the can openers, that's an upcoming video idea. The next time that we're going to be doing a recipe that calls for 3 or 4 cans of stuff, we're going to test out different can openers on the different cans to see what can opener works the best. This will be one of the competitors in that, because Camillus is quite well known for their usage of this old Hawkbill style can opener. You can see we've got Camillus's again. Camillus was quite well known for using the long screwdriver. You can see the back spring on this is a little bit weaker than the others. But nice long screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, bottle opener. And my favorite part about this one is this awl. I'm in love with this awl. Works great. Okay, I'm gonna get some, oh, and the handles are just some sort of Delrin or something, some synthetic material that, as you can see, has shrunk over time. These would have been flush originally. Okay, I'm gonna get some measurements. Ma, why don't you talk about it?
The loop on the end is called a bail.
That's right.
Coincidentally, that's what they call it. Loop on a charm for going on a necklace.
Coincidence?
Coincidence.
Okay, we're looking at right around 3 3/4 inches long closed. We're just gonna measure the blade here. So if you got the blade open, you're looking at, let's close that bail up so I can see. Looking at 6 1/4 inches long, open, with a blade overall of 2 5/8 inches, I would say, and a cutting length of 2 3/8 inches. And you can see here what I was talking about with these vintage camp knives specifically, but traditionals in more generally, is very slicey profile. Look at how thin that is behind the edge. And of course, you got to keep in mind this has been sharpened a gazillion times over the years, but you can see how thin that gets right behind the edge there, which allows it to really be super, super slicey. Okay, now we're going to take the weight measurement while Ma gives any additional thoughts that she has.
I don't have a lot of it. It just looks like one of my dad's old camping knives.
Yeah, I got a bunch of camp knives. Camp knives are generally my favorite style of traditional knife. I've got a bunch of them, and I always carry at least, I generally have at least 2 knives on me. While I'm home, I've got 3. I've got a fixed blade, a folding knife, and a camp knife on me. But even when I'm in Germany, I carry a folding knife and a camp knife on me because I like to have the screwdriver, can opener, bottle opener, those extra little tools just to have them on me in case I end up needing them while I'm out and about. We can see we're looking at 3.4 ounces here, which is 96 grams. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice weight. It's not super heavy. Let's compare it to the camp knife in my pocket right now, which is a very heavy camp knife. And it's one that we'll be doing a review on shortly, which is the Marbles kind of deluxe camp knife. It's got the same exact tools, but it also has a Phillips screwdriver on it. And I believe it's a number 2 Phillips. So again, 95 grams, 96 grams versus 109 grams. So you've got an extra 17 grams between the two, which is partially explained by the fact that this also has a Phillips screwdriver, and partially explained by, this has a bail, whereas this does not, so that's going to offset some of that. But you can also see it's got an extra layer in it. It's an extra spring, and these are actual bone handles, whereas this is, like I said, Delrin. But yeah, this is quite a heavy camp knife, not that I mind, but some people might. Whereas this is significantly lighter.
It's not as much as your math is bad.
Oh, I thought it was 94. Yeah. Is it 96?
96 and 108.
Yeah, I thought that...
So 12.
Yeah, I thought it was at 94 before. So now it's at 95.
I gotta teach my kid math all the time.
Oh, no. Anyway, yeah. No, I just need a better memory is what the issue is. Anyway, this is, for me, a nice weight. It's more than a Camp King. Ooh, if I had a Camp King up here, I'd love to weigh that. I bet you the Camp King is in the 78 gram range. Actually, I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to run down and I'm going to grab a Camp King and we'll see how close my guess is. Okay, I'm back. And I brought up an Imperial Camp King. This is the last run of Camp Kings from Imperial. You can see there from the tank stamp, it's the latest one. Same exact tools as this Camillus. That was 96. This is 74. Oh, I was close. I was off by 4 grams. Okay, I've got other Camp Kings too. So maybe if I looked around long enough, I'd find one that was 78 grams. But yeah, this one's 74.
Is that because it's not real bone?
These are just shells. these aren't even separate from this. These are all one piece that's just clipped on the ends. If you look right here, you can see it's crimped right there, and right there, and right there, and right there, which allows them to just mass produce it. These pins are fake. They're not even pins. There's an internal metal frame. Yeah, there's an internal metal frame, and then they just crimp this entire outside shell on, which allows them to mass produce it really quickly. But it's really, really light because this whole outside is basically like painted plasticky, and I think the end here is like aluminum or something. But that's why it's so light. No, it's at 76, 75, 96, 109. So like I said, this one's pretty heavy. I don't mind that, but I know a lot of people would not like how heavy it is. This is super light. And this is a happy medium. This is an actual, like, I don't want to say well-built, but normally built knife where it has actual bolsters, actual scales, actual pins. It's a normally constructed knife as opposed to one of these shell knives, which were just economy mass-produced. But yeah, good weight, looks nice, works great. Camillus is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, of the vintage folding knife companies. So yeah, this is one of my favorite camp knives. Any last thoughts, Ma?
I like the red-handled one, of course, better, but...
She likes the color red.
I'll go with the heavy.
She likes the color red, and I do admit, this is an incredibly pretty camp knife here, this red jigged bone camp knife from Marbles, but we'll be doing a review on this soon. I think this will probably be the next camp knife that we review on the channel. But if nothing else, just put all of them together on there, and it's 280 overall. Nothing else, Ma? Okay, then we're going to wrap it up. This has been Practical Knife Reviews. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again very soon.